Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 100. Woo! We made it. This is your guide to the Week in Nerd. I'm your host, Todd Oxtra, joined by my hetero life mate, Charlie Carden.
We made it, mate. Looks like we made it. Oh, yeah. What's up?
And also joined again by one of the original three, Jonathan Cyr. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. I promise not to sing like Charlie, but we've recovered from snowpocalypse out here in the Pacific Northwest, which actually had a touch of real snowpocalypse for once. So,
really? Unbelievable.
Yeah, we had to help a lot of people figure out how to get around out here with our Midwest knowledge.
I will educate you.
Sell your children to the highest bidder so you have plenty of food.
Sell me your wife, the little girl. Sell me your children.
The women. Yes.
The
yes.
women.
Well, we made it to 100 episodes. We actually started our podcast in the fall of 2015. Charlie called it out as September 14th.
Yes.
Yeah, and we started with just Charlie and I when we first started. And we then have done this ever since. And it's been a lot of fun. We've recorded more episodes. Some were lost in the void, unfortunately. We've done some.
You had some of those standalone The Gamer episodes, which maybe we could call those annuals or one-shots.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
apart from the core, so
They're anthology shows.
Right, it was like Rogue One. Rogue One, a podcast story.
That's correct. And then it's basically a prequel to what happened before on the Secret Friends Unite podcast. Yes.
Right.
Yes, we honored the prequels. So yeah, we've been doing this, having a lot of fun. We've had a lot of guests on the show, and we'll do a shout out at the end to all the folks that really helped us through our first 100 episodes, and we're excited to see where we go next. So I think, without further ado, Charlie, we'll get into our normal flow. We start with the rumor news with Madam Web, go to the Geek Easy, check in with some Yacht Rock, do a mind meld with Lego Batman, and we'll do some listener giveaway and some Geek Love. Madam Web, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Web's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Web. 100 episodes, and guess what? You're still over 100. You're still beating us, at this point. We will surpass your age, but it might be episode 200 by the point we do that.
You bet. Krusty never forgave her for having that affair with President Taft.
Yeah, I think she's like Wolverine, where she never ages. Well, she gets older, but she never really, dies. Maybe that's the only part.
She never slows down.
She just gets more frail, more wafy, and that's about it.
Right.
Is that like the reverse McConaughey? We keep getting older, but she stays the same age.
It's like, it's a reverse Benjamin Button. Yeah.
Right. It's the reverse Benjamin Button.
My goodness. So first news story this week on TV is that the Iron Fist trailer dropped. This is the final Defender.
And it was so exciting to both Todd and I. We literally watched it 15 minutes ago. We are so on top of shit. And John, did you have a chance to watch it?
Oh no, I have not.
Okay, good. I just don't feel like I'm the only one. But anyway, that being said, I was all over it. But anyway, Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, so the trailer dropped. This is going to be launching in March, and this is the final Defender. We've got our 4 core members. I'm not sure what you call the Punisher. He's kind of like the outcast. But the core 4 are Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Danny Rand, the Iron Fist. So we've got them all together, and this will kick off into, then once this wraps up, it will go into Defenders in the fall. And Charlie, what did you think of the trailer?
I said to you, my first impression was we got a taste of Batman meets the Green Arrow, because you had this kid who had been missing. This young man, he came from this wealthy family. They have the big family business, so it's like Wayne Enterprises, or what the hell was the one in Green Arrow? Oscar. What the hell is his name?
Oliver Queen. Queen Industries. Yes.
Queen Industries. There you go. So Queen Industries, Wayne Enterprises, blah blah. This kid goes on a trip with his parents as a child. The plane splits apart in midair. He gets sucked out, and he lands in the snow somewhere, and somehow gets assimilated by a bunch of ninjas. Learns martial arts and is raised by wolves who are ninjas. And then he returns to assume his old life to find out that not all is as it seems. This kind of reminded me very much of Batman Begins. Him coming back, and there's the creepy family friend who's running the family business, and he's dirty. So it kind of had shades of that for me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely feels like the guy who stranded. His kid comes back, and he is a changed person. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just like Batman, like Arrow, and shades of Iron Man too, where the billionaire, the rich kid is trying to win back his company, but now it's corrupted. So
he's trying to bring sexy back.
Yeah, and the cool part is this is the first character, well, the second character, because really, no, third actually. Let me take this back. This is the character that is really bringing in a little bit of mysticism, a little bit of magic to the Defenders universe, where it's been previously Street. Jessica Jones has power. Luke Cage has powers. Daredevil, I guess you would say he has sixth sense, whatever you want to call it, and. So they're coming together, and quite honestly, beyond a scummy guy running Rand Corporation, I'm not exactly sure. And obviously we've got the Hand involved because the crazy Chinese woman from Daredevil is back on. I don't know exactly what they're bringing on beyond what ninjas and guys with guns again.
I don't know. Maybe they are going that route for consistency's sake, and Sigourney Weaver is Mephisto when the whole crew gets together. So who knows? Maybe it's going to be that kind of tie-in.
Yeah, I like the theme of it. I like the way it's going. I mean, it looks like and we haven't seen much more than what they've shown, but I mean, do you think there's going to be a ton of flashbacks, or it will start off with him growing up in the island, or it'll be like Arrow where they do all of their past storytelling through flashbacks?
I got the feeling that, right at the beginning of the trailer where you see him walking in, he walks up to the receptionist, and that could be the beginning, and then it goes into Flashback City. Or, to me, it seems like it could very much follow that same pattern. This could pretty much be Arrow for the Marvel Universe, which is not bad. I mean, there was a time that I thought Arrow was very enjoyable. I haven't watched it in a year, but I mean, you remember how we were all real crazy about that show. We loved it. So there was a time that I definitely thought it was good. So if this has shades of that period of the show that was enjoyable, I think we could be in good hands.
Yeah.
Well, the issue with the flashbacks in Arrow, the flashbacks themselves are not really the problem. It's the just complete terrible writing of the flashbacks starting in season 3. Because I thought the first 2 seasons, they tied flashbacks in really well with the modern story.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then it went off the rails in season 3 and 4. So using flashback as a storytelling device can be done really well. So, it could work out just fine for the show. And I haven't seen the trailer. I'm not as excited about the Marvel Netflix shows as you guys have been, especially Charlie.
It is my religion.
I know it's in your DNA.
Yes.
I got through Jessica Jones and a couple episodes of Luke Cage and haven't been beyond that. So, and I haven't really felt the pull back. And Iron Fist as a character, I know basically nothing about outside of you guys and what you said about him. So, if it's good storytelling, that'll be just fine. You don't need to know much about these characters, to enjoy them, as long as the story's done well.
Right. True. That can be said of any of these, and it's been a mixed bag with these Marvel Netflix. I don't know that any of us were super psyched about Daredevil season 2. I mean, one of the two of you didn't even see it. Todd, you haven't seen it, have you?
Watched the first episode.
I saw the first episode also. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it doesn't.
Jessica Jones was my favorite. Jessica Jones was my favorite by far. And the first Daredevil was pretty cool because it was the first one. It was different, I thought, and and pretty neat. And Jessica Jones is really because of Kristen Ritter and David Tennant. Really, I mean, they carry it for me, and I love both of them. And then after that, it isn't so much that I don't think it's not good. It's just I haven't put the time into the shows.
I probably liked Luke Cage the most myself because it's got that street beat kind of thing where I enjoy the blaxploitation, like Dolomite, that Todd and I loved in college and stuff. That probably ended up being my favorite. But Todd, I can see where you're coming from with the Punisher. I know you don't like the Punisher and how it gets kind of boring after a time where they're just beating up street toughs. And it's again and again and again. So lacking an element. I mean, that's what's finally made Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. good this last season and a half, is that they're embracing their roots. And doing Iron Fist to me seems like they're embracing their roots a little bit more. So I have high hopes. I think that this could also be as good as Luke Cage was to me. And of course, in your classic 80s storyline, the two of them were partners, heroes for hire. So I'd love to see that come together as a result of this show, and then the Defenders as well, to see them spin off and be chums in the business. That'd be neat.
Yeah, I mean, Daredevil season 2 felt more along the lines, I didn't need it. I kind of feel like he came into his own at the end of season 1. I'm like, great, he's set up. The next time I want to see him is when he's in Defenders. Nope, we had to see him again. Brought in Elektra. I don't know much of what happened in that season, so I'm not sure if he really came out a changed person, what the dynamic was, what the big key takeaway was, except for Punisher seemed to be the big thing. And Punisher, once again, is a guy with a gun, shoots a lot of people that are street tough. So, to your point, I don't know. And quite honestly, I think that's a good idea, Charlie. I think I like the idea. Then what if maybe it's not a Luke Cage and an Iron Fist having a separate show, but having their team up, and they're the heroes for hire.
Right.
And they could have Jessica Jones, pop in or something, because she becomes, spoilers, she becomes Luke Cage's wife.
Right.
So there's no reason that those three could not share a show, which would be fine with me, because you get all three of them, they add things. And one of the problems with the Netflix show is they tend to have some momentum, and then, let's take the next 4 episodes, slow everything down, pull it out. Like in Jessica Jones. I love that show, but I felt like if it was another episode or 2 where it's like, oh no, he got away, or this happened, or I just felt like at that point I liked that season with Jessica Jones, but after a point I'm like, I just feel like they're just pulling me, they're just toying with me and trying to get there. So I'm glad how it ended, and I'm really excited. Her as a character is the one I'm most interested in what they do with next, because she was stealing with her demons so much, and that's what all that was about. What does she do next? What is there with that character as she becomes a hero? And if that was her biggest obstacle,
right,
that's behind her now. So, hey, but they're well done. Much better done than we've got in the past, and I think they are equivalent to the DC shows. They do the darker side, the DC side does the light side, which I like, and it's vice versa. It's the exact opposite in the movies, so bizarre.
Right.
But I'm glad we get TV versions and we get movie versions of DC, because if we didn't, God Almighty, we'd be hurting right now.
Yeah, if it was, and really, I think we've all found that the real cinematic success that Warner Brothers and DC has is Lego. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I guess we will. So next story, I think John will be more excited about this than Charlie will, but it might motivate him to actually read the comics.
I think it's possible.
Yes, my library actually has all the volumes of it. But Runaways, we had talked about this in the past, that they were making this a TV show on Hulu. This is a Marvel property, and it will be the first Marvel property, actually first comic book property on Hulu. This is a Hulu-produced show. And I'm very excited about this show because I absolutely love these comics. I actually recommended them to John, and John read them as well. So John, the news came out that the whole cast has been assembled. I mean, there might be some more castings announced. Basically, they've got all the kids, and now they've got the Pride assembled. So what'd you think?
Oh, I'm very excited. I was excited when I first heard they were going to do this. One of our podcasts, I'm going to say, it was probably a year and a half or 2 years ago that I joined you guys about when I first read these on your recommendation, was I had said, boy, I'd really like to see them do something with this, possibly a movie. And then you suggested, no, a TV series might be better to bring out the whole story. And, here we are a year and a half later, they listened to us and they're putting the show out. I don't really know most of any of the cast that they came out with, which is, fine by me. I almost rather prefer that the majority of them be, unknowns. I know James Marsters was the one that stood out to me as part of the Pride. And I just remember him from his, the Buffy days and what you had us watch last year. Mm-hmm. But everything about it, I mean, it's hard to see necessarily like, okay, well, they're not obviously in their costumes and in these promotional photos. It's just kind of their headshots of who they're getting and what shows they've been in. But it all, I mean, there's no red flag. There's no, oh, this is a terrible, or this person was awful in something I'd seen them in before. Everything seems to be chugging along just fine. It's real. It's happening. It's, one of the few comics that I actually didn't even put down once I got into it a couple issues. It was like, oh, I'm still going. Oh, I'm still going. They had a little bit of the drag in the middle, which I can kind of see as being the stretch out episodes. If Hulu does the same thing Netflix does. But overall, it's great. And Charlie, I'm shocked if you haven't actually read this yet.
I had a thought to do it. I've been really wrapped up in my Amazing Spider-Man project because I'm getting to the end of the first volume. I'm less than 10 issues away from ASM Volume 1, 441. So I've been doing this reading project for like 2.5 years, and I'm just really focused on grinding through, and I want to finish it. But I've been thinking about other projects too. I have been reading a little bit of the Marvel Star Wars again, which I know you guys throw garbage at me for that, but I've been trying to branch out.
Charlie, you have to know everything about Star Wars. That's what it comes down to. You need to know everything.
Everything.
Whether it's pointless or garbage. Or
if it's canon. But anyway, yes, this I will read without a doubt. Does this article give us much of an indication of when we will see this?
Great
casting is happening now, so filming could happen in the summertime, so maybe next winter?
I'm thinking a January 2018 timeframe, so yeah, your winter next year probably makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the couple of the cool, and for those of you who don't know what Runaways is, it's a Marvel comic that came out in the early 2000s. It's about a bunch of kids who their parents always brought them together every year because their parents would get together. They were friends, and these kids didn't have any relationship besides the fact that their parents kind of brought them together. So they weren't really friends or anything. And we find out that these kids, just normal teens, everything, all of a sudden they end up looking to see what their parents are up to, and they find their parents are actually, I believe, sacrificing someone to a deity or a power. And this is a group of villains called the Pride. This isn't giving anything away. It's been kind of talked about in all the articles. And we find out these kids actually have powers and abilities too, if they find out along the way. And it's all about them being runaways from their parents. So, So it's rife with opportunity because you've got kids already that don't like their parents.
Right.
Their parents are villains.
They really got a reason. And I'm skimming over this second article that we have, which outlines the cast of the kids, and the names that I know is from that old game I used to play, that old Marvel Avengers Alliance, because those were playable characters in that. Chase Stein, Carolina Dean, Nico. So it's kind of neat to have that come full forward. But looking at this cast list, just a lot of these shows like Teen Wolf and Casual and just your budding angsty teens. I think this could really be a gem, without a doubt.
Yeah, and the two standouts, I would say, from the adult side are James Marster from Buffy. He played Spike. Mm-hmm. And then the one guy from Alias, I don't remember if you remember him. He was kind of the geeky lab guy, kind of a short guy. He was always a lot of fun, too. So he's also one of the parents as well. The only thing that makes me a little, probably hesitant, and I never watched The OC or Gossip Girl. They have their big fans, but the executive producers are basically we're behind The OC and Gossip Girl. So. Oh,
yeah.
But maybe it's good because they know kids.
Could be. Yeah. And yeah, if that's the driver of the series, you've got to You've got to have that. So
not only that, but I don't. What source material was there for the OC? You know, I think they might be starting from a more solid story foundation.
one would think.
Well, it was I'm assuming it was just it was kind of like 90210, but for the updated time where a kid moved to Orange County, right, to be with a family.
90210, but way grittier. No, it wasn't the Fresh Prince. He was.
Well, no, but then the one kid that moved in with that rich family, he ended up becoming Commissioner Gordon on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Ben McKenzie.
Yeah. Yeah, so lastly, we got some comic book news. This is for Charlie and for John to Grimace. They have announced a new Star Wars comic title, and it's all about Star Wars getting more of a genre feel. So they are getting into horror in Star Wars. So,
the horror! Horror!
Yeah, and this team's up.
Yawn.
Yeah, this team's up. It's called Screaming Citadel. It teams up Luke Skywalker and one of the newer characters they introduced, who is now canon, which is Dr. Afrosh, who's kind of like I don't know, I don't know much about her, but I know she was kind of like an ally.
She's cool.
Vader.
Yeah, she's like a twisted Indiana Jones. She's an archaeologist.
So that kind of doctor, not like a doctor of medicine.
Like Dr. Jones. And, is the Citadel in question the Citadel on Scarif? I can understand why it's screaming. It got shot by the Death Star. Ouch! I tried.
You tried, yes. Holy cow.
Really terrible.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing!
But apparently they're bringing the whole game along. Not just Luke, but they're also bringing Han Solo, Princess Leia, and R2-D2. Apparently C-3PO was banished along with Chewie. I don't know where they...
Do they all get lightsabers?
Ooh, that'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll have a great side story where it'll be Chewie and C-3PO having their solo adventure.
Maybe they were on vacation. I have a bone to pick because they have, I know it's shocking, they have the 3 covers of this crossover. The last pictures we're skimming through is from Dr. Aphra, issue number 7. Han is wearing his Bespin outfit, but Luke is still wearing his episode 4 outfit. So what is going on with the canon of the who's in charge of the fashion in these comics? It's fucked up. I
can't believe this bothers you.
Yeah,
they probably were just doing laundry.
I was gonna say, was there a closet canon? Like, nope, I could not. I only get certain outfits for certain, times in my life.
Closet canon. That sounds like someone who's looking to embrace their sexuality. It's closet canon.
But what outfit did Leia have on, Charlie?
She wears this weird, she's got a cape, but it looks like her old outfit, but her hair is different. You know what I'm talking about. All right, forget it. I'm throwing in the towel. Forget it.
So, this title is all about, there's a castle they have to go to. It's called the Screaming Citadel. And apparently they are looking for some items, and there's a sinister alien queen and symbiotes waiting for them there.
I already love it.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
You know what? I'm glad they're having some fun because, quite honestly, you can only cover so many Star Wars-like stories with these characters within the certain tropes that they have, anyways. So why not? Right. There was a Star Wars novel that was not canon, and it was all about Star Wars zombies, and it was about and apparently it brought in the what was this, Darth Plagueis, who could raise the dead, and it was about how he could create zombies too. So very odd. So they've done that in the expanded universe and really crappy novels, but this is kind of a first for Star Wars doing more of a, horror in space, which, you know what? Why not? It's fun.
All I'm going to say is I would have no problem with them going off on goofy stories like this if they would just allow them to be supposedly these, non-canon. Because once you start going down some of these roads where now you have them interacting with this Dr. Aphra character, and now you have these weird horror places, I'd have no problem if they either stuck all this after Return of the Jedi, or they said these are kind of just you can play in the Star Wars sandbox world, but this isn't going to be canon. These special little one-off things where they want to goof around and do some funny things, because I think they're going to eventually get themselves written into a corner of, I already can't believe that, some of these things are happening that are supposedly canon that, well, if they were,
right,
something would have been brought up in these movies in the course of time. It's like, just stop it already. Just stop it.
Yeah, no, I agree with the painting themselves into a corner, and they could do a lot more. Like the novels. I mean, I've either read or I've listened to audiobooks in the last couple of months of some decent post Return of the Jedi, pre Force Awakens, like the Bloodlines novel, John, that I was telling you about. I loved it. There's Princess Leia's founding of the Resistance about 6-7 years before the Force Awakens. Really well done. Good story, engaging.
Well, there's 30 years. They have 30 years they could play around with, but they're trying to squeeze it all between episodes 4 and 5 in a timeline that, there's some pretty finite facts that you can't get around.
Exactly.
Han's jacket and outfit is just the tip of the iceberg.
No, guys. Don't worry. They're just going to reboot Star Wars.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
I thought they did that last year.
No, again, they're going to have a new Luke and Han and everything. It's going to be fantastic.
The Force reawakens.
Let's put it this way. With Star Wars, their goal is to slow roll everything, because they realize they have this franchise forever, so they might as well squeeze every storyline out of everything. And quite honestly, the whole canon thing, I think 5 people worry about that, and the rest of the people could probably care less. Like,
I see one of them right there.
Exactly.
I'm one of the 5. Canon drives me nuts.
Well, my kids, my oldest sons, I mean, they talk about canon, not canon, and I used to care, and now I just, what, I really don't care. If you enjoy the story, just enjoy the story. Don't worry about it trying to line up.
I went.
It is what it is.
I went to a Comic-Con, a local con, a free one, last weekend with my 11-year-old, because my 10-year-old just doesn't really care for that kind of stuff. So we're driving and we're talking about this exact subject, Star Wars canon. And I was trying to say, well, hey, blah, blah, Knights of the Old Republic, it's not canon, but there's shades of it and blah, blah. He's like, yeah, but what about da-da-da-da-da? And it's just, we talked about it for like 25 minutes and with an 11-year-old. He was like, at the end of the day, so what? I said, it's kind of like with vampires. Can vampires fly? Can vampires, do they breathe? None of it matters because it's all bullshit. It's made up. It's make-believe. So it really, you're right. Canon, not canon. If you like it, if you dig it, dig it. If canon, who cares?
That'll be the spin-off Count Dooku vampire comic that'll come out.
Like they've done all the Batman Elseworlds. One of them was a vampire.
Well, I hope it's a crossover where they have the vampire from Buck Rogers, because Space Vampire was the best.
With that, there can truly be no other.
Exactly.
I want a serial tie-in with Count Chocula.
Yes, the serial monsters teaming up with Star Wars. Why not? It'd be awesome. Yeah, so I think that wraps up the news for this week, gents. So at this point, with the Yacht Rock flowing, we're going to pour ourselves a drink at the Geek Easy.
This is Yacht Rock. Smooth rock classics from the 70s and 80s. Yacht Rock. Album out now.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, listening to some Yacht Rock as we are about to talk about what we're excited about in the world of nerd. Charlie, what you got?
Well, this evening, it is February 12th as we're recording this. Ooh, gosh, I know I timed us, so people will be looking at their watches. Anyway, The Walking Dead returns tonight on AMC. Longtime fan of this show. It's, one of the ones that we watch live, as it were, turn the lights off, it's all spooky. This show has a tendency to drag, in particular, in I think sometimes the first half of a season, because they split in half, 16 episodes, 8 and 8. I was just thinking about today. It's like, why do they bother to do that? There's so much story that they could tell, but I'm wondering if they're afraid of getting ahead of themselves from the comic, because they're right around issue 100, 110 in a comic that's got about 165 issues. So I don't know if that's really what they're afraid of. But regardless, this was a season that started with a bang, a couple of grisly deaths, murders really of a couple of our core characters. And you saw Rick, our leader, essentially get neutered and back down to Negan, the great villain. But in this last episode, Rick was pushed too far. He finally decided, I'm going to unite 4 or 5 of these other splinter communities against Negan and his saviors, and we're going to start the push to take control. So while I am excited that it's coming back, I'm fearful that we're going to get another 8 dragging episodes like it was in season 3 with, we're going to take the governor down. And then it was 8 episodes. And then in that last episode, they still didn't take him down. It continued into the next season. So I'm fearful. I know how the thing with Negan ends. Todd, I know you quit reading the books, but I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who's listening.
But does it end with Negan though? Because isn't he still sticking around?
Well, he's dethroned and imprisoned.
Sure, but he's still So,
but again, I'm about two of the volumes back on the book, into the next segment, which is the Whisperer War, which is the Whisperers is a different tribe. They wear the skins of the Walkers and they talk, but they're able to move around because they, cloak themselves. But Negan, I think, eventually escapes and reascends to power. I think that's what happens. So, anyway. It's been good storytelling. Jeffrey Dean Morgan absolutely chews the scenery as Negan. But I'm fearful that this is going to drag ass, that we're going to get a lot of ass dragging story. But still, it's good. It could be better, but it's still pretty good. So I'm excited. As someone who's been a fan since about midway through season 2, we're in midway season 7 now. I've watched it unswervingly, and you know how it is when I'm in fandom. I'm in it to the bitter end. Unconditional love. So I'm excited. We'll see if they'll buck my tradition and it'll be more exciting than I'm predicting. We will find out.
Yeah, I'm in a conundrum with that show because I've only watched, I think, the first 2 episodes of this season, and I kind of feel like I've not been drawn back. I kind of feel like it's going to be one of those things where, they're going to break people, and then they're going to finally come back, and so I'm almost tempted to just watch one of those what you missed and start up again.
Maybe
Because quite honestly, at this show, I feel like they spend so much time on the minutia that you don't miss a whole lot.
Sometimes there are write-off episodes. I'll give you that. Like last season when they had the one with Morgan and the learning his ninja skills.
I skipped that one.
Yep, and it was an hour and a half. So it's like they've had a bunch of hour-and-a-half episodes in this last year that are filler and space to sell more commercials, which as a professional I can respect since that's what I do, but as a viewer I think is a ripoff.
Yep. And with them basically at this point, because the show's so popular still, it has a lot of ratings, this is at the point where like Lost was, where the show just meanders, kind of loses momentum, and then eventually they were given a deadline and say, this is when your show will be ending. That's when the show got momentum again, because they actually had they had to wrap up storylines. They had to do something. Unfortunately, with Walking Dead, there's no intention to say that there will be a cure or anything like that. So quite honestly, this show could go on for this could be the next MASH. I mean, It goes on forever, and it just meanders. So I don't know. So
I don't know either. So we'll find out. I would love to be wrong and have it be, exciting the way that it has been in the past. So we'll find out.
Yeah, definitely. John, what do you got, man?
Well, we discovered kind of by accident on Netflix. We found something that was called just simply the 80s. And when I was looking at what that show was about, it has like 8 episodes. And it's essentially like a special, like I think CNN put these together. It's like produced by them. It's almost like a documentary. And what it does is it goes through basically the decade of the 80s, and they cover different things that happened during the decade. And what they do is they pull out old news footage of things that happened, and commentaries from critics and politicians and people involved in a lot of the major things that happened in the 80s. And the first 2 episodes were titled Raised on Television, Part 1 and Part 2. And it went back through all of like the things that we, nostalgically talk about sometimes. It had a whole section on Dallas and its impact on TV and, Cheers and other sitcoms and, the Cosby Show, and kind of how, all the shows that came in, how it was a reflection of the 80s. And then there were, other episodes about the fall of communism, another episode all about Reagan, and another episode we just watched last night about the tech boom with the computers. watching all these old news clips, and we were young. We were like 10, 8, years old, maybe, 13, 14 by the time the 80s were about over. About half of this stuff I remember very vividly, and watching the news reports, because they pull stuff from ABC, CNN, CBS. You see all the old clips of Walter Cronkite and a young Tom Brokaw, young Dan Rather. You see just so much great stuff. They cover all the Iran-Contra stuff, but they also cover a lot of geek things, like, the movies. The next episode coming up for me is MTV, about how video comes in. I mean, they're really great. Each episode's like 40 minutes, and I just found out that there are also 2 other shows. One covers the 60s and one covers the 70s. Just
Logan,
like
get
this.
that out of your mouth and put it away.
They sucked me in. It was just really cool watching this. And a lot of it is nostalgia from the 80s for me, but it's so historically interesting. And they cover, politics, pop culture, just everything of importance. It was just really cool. And I watched last night the whole Fall of Communism 1 and the Berlin Wall and everything that happened with the whole lead up, because we were kids, we knew what happened. But to see it now as an adult and see all the coverage of what happened, it's just really neat. So it really gets you for a sense of nostalgia and some history. And since that was a decade that, between the 80s and 90s that we really grew up, I've just been enamored by it. And I highly recommend it to you guys and anybody. It's very educational, and it's also very fun.
That's kind of cool.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, and I had to check that out.
No, definitely check it out. It's so good. It's really well done.
It's amazing. I mean, if you think about it, back in the 80s, cable was emerging. So you had CNN? Was that one of the where they show clips? Was it coming from like CNN or was it still major networks?
Yeah, well, CNN came in the 80s. So CNN produced a special, and one of the things they covered is when CNN was created, like in the early 80s.
Okay. So they probably put some CNN clips in.
Oh yeah, there's but they've covered it. They have the 3 major networks, and they cover CNN, and they also covered Fox when Fox came in.
Man,
and what's really cool about this special is they don't trash anything. It's not coming from a liberal or conservative bias.
Thank God.
What? We're reporting the news. This is what happened. There's no commentary. I mean, they have some interviews of people, like they have former senators and congressmen, as well as, actors. One of the executive producers of this series is Tom Hanks. So he's got some parts on here where it's just right down the middle. It's perfect. It's like the old days of when they just report the news. And I don't want to say you decide, but it's just,
yes.
This is what happened. And here's all the stories and the video. And it's so great because you can tell that they're pulling out old VCR tapes to put this together. It's some bad video quality. But honestly, it is so good. I highly recommend it. It's really fun.
And that was CNN before it became fake news.
That's right.
Astonishing.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
And imagine that was really when, right on the cusp of 24-hour news versus,
right.
In the 70s, you got 1 hour or half hour of news, national news a night from one of the networks, and that was about it.
And that's exactly what they said. They had the whole bit. They had showed an old interview of Ted Turner when one of the, I don't know if it was Peter Jennings or Cronkite or somebody from one of the major networks. Well, how are you going to fill 24 hours of news? No, there's no demand for that. And, it's one of the greatest things about these old video clips is, you hear people talking about how this will never take off, will never catch on, or, this whole episode I just watched about computers where they said, well, one day, will there not be any cash? Will computers do all this? Will we be able to take our computers with us in our pocket? I mean, these are things that are unheard of, and there would be no need for this. That was really good. So it's a mixture of nostalgia and fun, and you learn a lot. I mean, I've learned a lot of things and been reminded of some stuff that I just forgot or just didn't have all the pieces together, because it was a really great thing with Reagan. 30 years later now you can think, Reagan's got this whole kind of perception, he was a great president or whatever. He ended the Cold War. He did all this. But when you follow his progression, when you watch his episode, he had a lot of ups and downs that you kind of forget about, or we were too young to really know. And just to see it presented of, this is fact, this is what happened. It's really cool. And you see, wow, one or two little things that, maybe if luck swung the other way, he'd be thought of totally differently. So it's kind of cool. It's very cool. I like I said, I've said it twice now, but It's been really fun. I recommend it.
There is a lot of really cool documentaries on Netflix. Either they were produced or created for Netflix, or that they've just gathered together so you can kind of choose and learn about anything. And one of the weirdest documentaries I ever saw, it was bizarre. It's called the Rockafire Express. And if you guys don't know what that term is, then you might have forgotten what Showbiz Pizza was. So do you remember?
I remember Showbiz Pizza. It was like it was like Chuck E. Cheese, but I think they had a gorilla.
Exactly. It was actually the precursor. It was before Chuck E. Cheese, and then Chuck E. Cheese actually bought out Showbiz. And the Rockafire Express was the animatronic band that played, and it had a gorilla. Billy Bob, I think, was his name. I think it was named Billy Bob. And it was all about these people that went out and searched and bought and basically recreated the Rockafire Express in their own homes.
Oh my God.
And it's so bizarre. I mean, there's something for everybody. And this one guy is like, I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but he could also be a serial killer. I don't know which. So he's recreated this, and he's in this little town, and he's got it basically like a recreation of a Showbiz Pizza in his basement. And he allows the neighbor kids come over to watch it at his house. I'm like, oh my God. This could be like one of those Nightline
yeah, exactly.
exposés.
To Catch a Predator. That'd be Chris Hansen.
But
oh my God.
I watched the first 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm so intrigued. I want to see where this goes, because it seems like there's going to be, and then something suddenly went wrong.
Right.
Like the robots killed somebody, or
it's gonna be like The Burbs.
Yeah. So no matter what, there is a documentary on Netflix for everybody.
Oh my!
Whatever your kink is, it's yours. So, I will send you guys a clip just to watch the trailer for it. Is
yes,
delicious. Please. It's fantastic. So, for me, one of the shows that I haven't talked about in a long time, because it's actually it had been every year, and then they went to twice a year, and now they're back to yearly again, which I think is the right move, because I think a little bit is too much. Like a lot of reality shows where they get successful and they do twice a year, it just becomes too much. Like Dancing with the Stars, I think, is twice a year, and it's like, I just thought that show ended, and it's back again. But that
Hell's Kitchen has done that also.
Yeah, it kind of burns.
It's too much.
It burns you out. Like, what I liked about that show was you miss it a little bit, and then it comes back. So a show for me is Face Off. It's on Syfy, and this is all about makeup artists that are aspiring to get a career in Hollywood, do makeup for movies, TV, whatever, and they do construction of suits and masks, and they do really cool stuff. They're really talented people. Amazing how much stuff they can do, versus just being talented in one specific area, and that's what's really all about. And this time, this is the return of the champions. So they are return of the favorites, as they call it. These are like some of the best performers from previous seasons, not the winners, and they brought them back. And what they've done is they've created teams of all of these previous show candidates, and it's really fun because most of them get along. That's pretty good, but sometimes you can see there's tension between these two people that have to work together, because they lose together, they win together. And they do a unique thing now where there's not an elimination every week, but there is one every other week. So, which is good, because it kind of allows some teams that they have a lot of promise, and it allows them to maybe make some changes or work on their teamwork. And last week was Monster High, which I thought was kind of fun. So they went to Mattel. They showed them all about these dolls, and Monster High is kind of like the monster version of Barbie. And
oh yes,
and their challenge was they had to basically turn the Monster High concepts and the characters into like something that potentially could be a live action movie. So I liked it. I thought it was a good idea. They took the characters as they looked, and a lot of them went really bizarre, and some went really close to the vein, just really did makeups. But it was fun. It was really fun. So every week you've got a different type of theme, and they do zombies, monsters, aliens, superheroes. So it's really fun. And if you like just how Hollywood creatures are made, it's really, you learn a lot, and the judges are the judges are really interesting. These judges have all won Oscars for special effects. One that worked on Avatar. A lot of them worked on really cool pieces as well. So it's fun. I really enjoy it. I think we're on week 3 coming up on Syfy. So, and you can watch the past seasons on Netflix if you really like it. But it's definitely one of those reality shows where they're actually doing something with a talent versus dating 85 girls and getting a rose.
Which also sounds tremendous.
Oh yeah, it's the best. It's the best around, Charlie.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's definitely huge. It's bigly. So that wraps up the Geek Easy. Charlie, Dan Fogelberg is back doing the dishes, so he wasn't able to perform tonight.
I'm sad for him. The guy just can't cut a break, and he's dead.
Yeah,
that doesn't help.
But the big news is we've heard our good friend Corey might be taking over the Geek Easy, so we'll see what he can do with Dan.
My.
Yeah. So with the Geek, as we leave the Geek Easy, we're going to get our Mindmeld on, and we're going to talk about Lego Batman.
The Lego Batman movie is a way for me to give back to my fans with a glimpse into my real life of fighting crime and brooding heroism.
Well, we've got our Mindmeld gear on, and this week we are here to talk about Lego Batman, the movie. We've all seen it. This came out this week. This is the second Lego movie after the Lego movie came out.
The Han Solo movie that we're all looking forward to.
That's right. So this is probably the first big geek movie of the year, and we all saw it. So, Charlie, you are by far the biggest Lego fan of the team. What did you think about the movie? Highs, lows, etc.
From the get-go. With the Michael Jackson reference, there was a man who once said, "If you want to make the world a better place," I mean, we saw it Thursday night. I was giggling from the get go. I mean, this really made me feel like this was the Lego extension of Batman 66. Particularly in that great scene where Lego Alfred calls back to Sir, I remember him back in, and he's rattling off all these years back in 2012 and 2008 and 1996, and then you see these Legos flashes dolls as parents, and that really weird period he went through in 1966. You see him do the Bat-Tusi. I mean, it was completely silly, overarching, but in the end, spoke to what I think we all kind of felt like the movie was going to be like by seeing the trailers, that, Batman is a lone wolf. He stands on his own. But in the Disney-esque kind of, everybody's complete with a family. He gets a family by the end of it. He adopts the very awkward Robin and becomes pals with Barbara Gordon, who he makes into Batgirl. So, it was delightful. Rated PG, which is great. We don't see a ton of PG films out there anymore that adults actually want to see and will enjoy. I mean, unless I'm wrong.
No, they're pretty few and far between. Typically, PG-13 is a new sweet spot.
Yeah,
you can get both fans, but I mean, unless you're talking Pixar films and animated. Yeah,
exactly. So this was fun. It took on the same scope of the Lego movie, but with a lot more familiar elements. So they're working within a more familiar framework. To me, it felt like, and again, I'll talk about it in our next episode, how I jumped into playing the story mode in the Lego Dimensions game. But even at the end of this, when the Joker is mounting his final assault, his new army is composed of characters from Lego Dimensions: Raptors, the Gremlins,
Wicked Witch,
the Daleks, the Wicked Witch. I mean, so it felt like that part of it felt like it was kind of a silly tie-in,
corporate
like
synergy.
Exactly. So just a Warner Brothers to sell more toys, and maybe that rankled me a little bit. I don't know. It shouldn't, because I'm in marketing and advertising myself, and I love those games. But that seemed a little thin. But it's a Lego movie. What the hell do you want? It's about toys. So there's going to be toys in it. But in the end, a fun story, a heartwarming story, lots of laughs for the adults. Nothing in there that the kids can't handle. It'll, I was hoping it would do a lot better at the box office this weekend than it did.
Yeah, it was supposed to do 80. Was 80 projected, and it's like 56.
And it came in at 56, which was even lower than what it was projected on Saturday. Yeah, it really, and it was my lead in the movie league, and that was even my friend Ron, who works at the local theater, who joined our movie league. He did the same thing that I did. We were talking about it Friday morning, and he said, "Yeah, I really think Lego Batman's going to deliver 80 million," and nope. So sad. I was sad about that, but I don't think they're gonna lose out. You know, it's an animated movie about Legos. I don't think it could have been that expensive.
It took $80 million to make. So with $80 million, and they almost made that up on their. I mean, I'm not sure what did internationally, but yeah, right. They're good to go.
Yeah. So anyway, so those are my off the top thoughts. How about you guys?
The last half hour, while it had some of its fun moments, it did feel like it was a Lego Dimensions commercial. And yeah. I guess I get it. I wasn't expecting it. But it was a little disappointing to have initially it was cool to see all those characters brought in because I wasn't expecting it. But then to have them be more than just cameos, I was a little disappointed in that part because there's so many DC, other villains that they could have brought in and used if they wanted to go that route. It just screamed to me, hey, look what you can do with Lego Dimensions. That kind of bothered me a little bit. I really liked all the subtle and not so subtle callbacks to Batman history. I loved it when he was in the Batcave and you see all the Lego versions of all the previous movie Batmobiles. That was cool. I like all the costumes that went by. I liked all the callbacks to the ridiculous comic book villains that have existed and the Batman 66 TV show. I mean, King Tut made an appearance. That made my day.
Condiment King. King.
Calendar Man. Of course, then they brought out Eraser, which was so I mean, I enjoyed the silly kind of the self-awareness parts, the whole why are you fighting Superman? He's not a villain. And, Iron Man sucks is his password to get in the Batcave. Those things were kind of fun. Well, why would you get villains together to fight villains? That's a stupid idea. That was pretty funny.
You mean heroes fighting heroes?
Yeah. So I kind of like, exactly. Oh, for really, what they call thin reasons. That was the part when I thought it was the best, when it was, I had read the one review that said it had this kind of like parody type of Naked Gun type of humor, and there were elements of it in there. But I will say there were some times when it kind of slowed to a little bit of a dragging type pace, and the last half hour was more, when's this going to be over? They're really dragging this out. It's getting to be a little bit much. But, it was better than any of the DC Universe movies recently, in my opinion. It was just, they seem to do better with the slapstick parody type comedy than the real serious stuff, at least on the movie. I also found it was funny that they had the actor who portrayed Voldemort didn't do the voice for Voldemort in the movie, which I thought was, I wonder if that was a money thing, contract.
Yeah. But they did have Ray Fiennes was also in the movie too, which made
that's what I mean. He was Alfred.
He was Alfred. Yes, he was.
It's like, well, why couldn't he also voice Voldemort?
They didn't want to give him two paychecks. That's why.
Yeah, what's his name? It was
Eddie
Izzard.
Eddie Izzard. Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, that role was so small, anyways.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it was a fun movie. It was one that it had its moments. It had some really good, funny bits. And I know we took the whole family. Everybody enjoyed it. It's just not one that I wouldn't feel an itch to see a second time or anything. So that's what I thought of it.
Yeah, that movie was, it was like visual crack. I mean, and it's funny when you say it slowed down, but that movie was going like 120 miles an hour. Just non-stop jokes. There were some that kind of fell flat, but I think the majority of them succeeded, which was cool. And they really hit some points I didn't expect them to. I mean, they went really hard on the whole Batman as you really have never seen him before. I mean, Batman being the loner, yeah, we all knew that. But the fact is, seeing him alone, eating his lobster thermidor by himself, he's laughing at Jerry Maguire. I mean, you kind of look at it like, the guy is kind of a sad psychopath who, who's always touting how much he wants to be alone, but he keeps bringing people in, but wants to keep them away. So I thought it was an interesting way in a Batman movie that they did some things that most Batman movies don't. So I appreciate that in a kid's movie. So I thought they nailed that. Some of the things were just, goofy, hilarious with all the villains. He went through that list of villains, and he's like, look them up, they're real. I mean,
Totally.
that was fantastic. Some things were a little bit too much with all the Batman music stuff. Was probably a little too much. The rapping and things like that. Now, what I could potentially see, and I do think the Robin character was fantastic. Now, whether it was created off of the Dark Knight, Carrie Kelly, I believe, is the name of that that Robin, but that was just fantastic. Just a light and airy, spoiler to Batman was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. There was things. Yeah, there was the slow point, as you always get in these movies, where it's like, this is where it just takes a dive. But even at that point, it was still going at a pretty decent pace, considering that movie was going at 120 beats per minute. It's just crazy. Now, what they do next, I could potentially see a Batman or a Lego Justice League movie. Probably would make a lot of sense. Get bigger, get broader. I think that's the way you do it next, because I don't think you can just do another Batman movie.
I'm thinking Lego Super Friends, because all the Super Friends were in this.
Well, I saw a missed opportunity there to do a joke about why the Justice League and all the Super Friends, why they couldn't come help Batman. When you have all these movies and it's like,
right.
Well, how come all of you guys aren't helping now? And I wanted to see them say something like, oh, this is a Batman movie. We have to stay here. Just something kind of tongue-in-cheek type of thing, which I thought was set up by all of them being up at the Superman fortress having a party. Right. Which is doorbell music was great too. I thought that was cool.
Oh yeah, and it would be awesome if it was like, if they had gone to and someone locked the door, we can't get out, like one of those.
Yeah, they tried to exactly. Yeah. See, there was. I thought it was set up for that. It's like, that's a missed opportunity. I thought, but
right. Totally.
But yeah, there could be Lego Super Friends because they were all there. You're right.
Yeah, Samurai, Apache Chief.
Black Vulcan.
The Wonder
Zan
Twin.
And Jaina. Yeah. Gleek.
Yeah, the Wonder Dog was the DJ. Was Gleek there? I didn't remember seeing Gleek.
Yeah,
he was the DJ, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh no, he was.
No,
he's the monkey. Yeah.
Yeah, DJ was Crypto.
Yeah,
not Wonder.
Crypto.
It wasn't Wonder, or whatever his name was. Wonder
Marvin.
I think. Yeah, Wendy and Marvin.
Wendy and Marvin and Wonder Dog. Wendy and Marvin. That was the first iteration. Then it was the Wonder Twins with Gleek.
Correct. So I think they could do a Super Friends. That would be fantastic. It would be like capture a lot of 70 elements and even more of those crazy villains, and I think that would be a lot of fun. So overall, I went with my son. We made it a guy nights out, and we really enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun. My son's not the biggest fan of movies. He just would rather interact or do something. He's a bigger gamer. Loves books though too. So it's kind of a weird mix of playing a game and reading a book versus seeing a movie, but he enjoyed it a lot, so I'm glad he enjoyed it. And that's what he typically does. Most kids, I want to go. Oh, did you have fun? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. Kid 101.
But, by the way, if you have kids, they will absolutely love this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's goofy.
Kid safe.
And I would say it's very kid safe. There's nothing scary. There's nothing, adult about this movie whatsoever. So you're feel free to take a kid when they're ready to see any type of Pixar movie, you could take them to see this. So it's a good movie for the family. Yeah. Yep, so we're going to take off our Mindmeld gear at this point, and we're going to get ready to give out some Geek Love.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when we live in our dream.
Well, we're giving out some Geek Love, and this is celebration to all of the people that have been a part of the Secret Friends podcast in one way or the other. We're going to go through this list and just do some shout-outs to everybody. And if we missed anybody, we apologize. But, let us know, and we will add you on. We'll call you out separately, give you a big hug. But we just want to make sure that we tell everybody, because, quite honestly, when Charlie and I first started talking about the Secret Friends, we weren't sure for how we were going to do this, how it was going to work. None of us are that technically gifted. I'm not an editor by any means, and this was still kind of something we thought that would just be fun. And we've made it happen. We were very lucky that we've gotten a lot of our past friends that we shared mutually. And then we had a lot of people from outside of our circle and from who we've met along the way from the group and everything. And our Secret Friends Unite Facebook group is fantastic. And we've met a lot of great people and we've had a lot of great discussions. So we want to just thank everybody that's involved with the Secret Friends, either on the podcast or in the group, because you guys are awesome. And if you follow us in the Twitterverse as well. So thank you very much. So Charlie, we'll just go through these. So I want to first call out Adam Lash, comedian. He found us and said, he would be more than happy to do the podcast. It's been fantastic. He did 2 episodes. So Adam Lash is out there making awesome comedy content. Check him out.
You bet. Next, we have Sean Seitz, a college friend to all of us, big Star Wars guy who talked all Star Wars with us. Next up, Louis Sabong, my best friend from high school. We've been friends for pushing 30 years, which is insane. He lives out there in New York, very big gamer, big Star Wars guy, loves 80s cartoons, loves 80s, cornball movies like The Last Dragon. So Hep Cat. Todd, I'll do one more and then I'll kick it back to you. Elwides Pagan, who lives down in the great state of Indiana. He is the husband of my wife's childhood pen pal, is his wife. He is a very big Doctor Who guy, but he also loves Marvel Comics, has an enormous, probably 6,000-piece comic book collection. The dude just keeps buying and reading, and we had a lot of great conversations with him. Todd?
Yeah, and if Charlie ever gets around to editing episode 90, we'll have the second episode of L that we'll be able to put on the podcast. So L,
someday.
Yes. Then we got Cynthia Coleman. She was brought into the group. She is a big-time geek, loves anime. So Cynthia, thank you. You've been on the podcast a couple of times, so hopefully you can join us again in the future. The next, Bobby Pauls. Papa Nintendo, the geek guru, the Nintendo guru. What else can I say? Bobby has been on our podcast a couple of times. He is probably the biggest DCU fan there is, and we definitely will have Bobby on to talk about the next DC movie, Wonder Woman. Then we have our gal pal, Lisa Goodman. What else can we say? Lisa has been on the podcast 3 times, and there will definitely be more appearances of Lisa in the future. She is the geek mom of the group.
Terrific. Next up, Rick Reed, who is a friend of a friend, a local here to Grand Rapids. Biggest movie file you'll probably ever meet in your life. Specialty in horror films. This guy has been on a couple of our she did at least our first Halloween episode. Very knowledgeable cat.
Yeah, then we got Jerry Shepard. He was on our podcast. He's a big gamer. He's also in the Facebook group. So Jerry, thank you for being on the podcast. We also had Raymond Apollo Williams on a couple times. Met him through the Neek community. Ray is just one of the nicest dudes in the world. We were so glad to have him on. Also then Chris Kiku Kubiak. He's doing lots of stuff in the world of geek. You should follow him. He's doing some awesome video stuff. He also is from the Neek world of podcasting.
Next up, Wingman, a former co-worker of mine. He is a radio personality here in Grand Rapids, currently heard on WGRD, one of my competitors. But he is a big gamer, big Star Wars fan, big genre fan in general, big comic book guy, and we loved having him on. Up next, a friend we met from Lisa, Brian Moore, who lives in the southeast part of Michigan. Very, very big Star Wars guy. One of the most ardent vintage Star Wars action figure collectors and traders that I've ever bumped into. Very cool guy. Todd?
Yeah, then Josh Finney, once again, another member of the Neek community. Josh was on the podcast once. Really fun. Really glad I could have him on and talk about the world of nerd. He's a big comic book fan, so it's always good to have people to talk about comic books. Then Matt Keel. Matt Keel was just on 2 episodes. He was also on the Secret Friends gaming podcast as well. Matt is a vinyl maniac, so check him out on Platinum Achievements and also on the DNA, talking about games and music.
All right, I give a shout out to Marley, whose last name I will not destroy, but you know who you are. Young guy, very emphatic Star Wars fan, great big Marvel fan. He and I really connect over that. Todd, how do we even meet Marley? I think you met him.
Marley is a big Nintendo fan, so we met through the Nintendo voice
There we
group.
go.
He is a self-professed Pokemaniac and an Ewok in disguise.
There you go. Rebel Ewok. Rebel Ewok is, I believe, how you find him on Twitter. And last but not least, Emily Slater, who is a local podcaster and writer and basically pirate princess, who joined us for a couple of episodes to share her passion of all things geek. So we thank each and every one of these awesome people. Would have any one of them back at any time, because we love together when we share together in this geek community, which is when I always say at the end, sharing is caring. That is where it's at. And then, Todd, we've had a couple of celebrity interviews since we've been doing the show, both of which were orchestrated by you. So tell us all about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to branch on. This is something we want to do in the future as well, to basically spread knowledge about the industry of nerd. And the two people we got to do interviews were Mike Harmon from Hot Comics in my neck of the woods. So we learned more about the biz of actually running a comic book shop and buying collectibles and selling them. So thank you, Mike, for being on. We loved that interview. It was great. And then Chris Jones, a comic book illustrator. He did Young Justice and done some other projects as well. And with Young Justice coming back animated on Netflix, hopefully you'll be able to start illustrating that comic again. But Chris Jones is awesome. Check out his artwork. He does some fantastic stuff. I also want to say thank you to everybody that was on my Secret Friends gaming podcast. I'll forget everybody who has been on that, but I want to keep doing that as well, because it's a great way to talk about games, and all our supporters out there that helped us and really love us and share our podcast, because we pick up listeners every week. So really excited about this. But once again, guys, thank you. You made this purposeful. And last but not least, our third secret friend, Jonathan Cyr. You were a late ad. We are so glad that we were able to reconnect after all these years, because I think it literally had been almost 20 years since we talked.
Seems that way. 15, 20 years. Yeah,
probably a good 15 or so.
I was going to say, John, if you're still there, because we've been blabbing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh yeah. No, it was cool to reconnect this way. That's for sure.
And ultimately, that's what this podcast is about: reconnecting. Charlie and I, being several states away. This is our way to really keep in touch, have fun, talk about all the stuff we used to talk about in college, and keep doing it for who knows how long. So this has been a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody. And I think at this point, Charlie, we're going to spread some other love. We're going to be giving away another prize.
Yes.
So, Charlie, how will we give away this prize?
Well, we're going to give an opportunity to the first individual, or if we get a flood of them, I guess we'll have to draw a name out of a hat. But we talked about this on our YouTube channel. But our process for giving away a prize of Todd's choosing, since he was the one who came up with this idea, is we're going to pose a question, and then if you either drop us an email at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. or hit us up on Twitter with the answer @SecretFriendsU, you will get this wonderful prize. So this week's question is, what is the name of the Netflix documentary that Todd mentioned during the Geek Easy when John was talking about the 80s on Netflix?
Great.
So Gmail, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com, send an email, or Twitter @SecretFriendsU with the correct answer. Win yourself a fantastic prize.
Awesome. So, Charlie, I think that does it for episode 100. Once again, John, thank you for joining us again. We love having you on, buddy. I know you're very busy, so we're just very happy to have you on anytime you can.
Most Def. And as I've said 50 times in the last 2 seconds, thank you again. We are an offshoot. We're a centennial anniversary celebration of the Secret Friends Facebook community and podcast page. Hit us up over on Twitter @SecretFriendsU. Send us a Twitter bomb and we'll twiddle right back at you. That's also a great way to enter into our prize giveaway. And also send us a note over at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. And then also something that I want to work into the mix is I would love to start having people giving us reviews. If you use iTunes, if you use, is it the Google Play Store, I believe,
Yes, it
for
is.
Android? Or if it's just on Facebook or Twitter, write us an email, or I would say leave us a review, and I will spearhead reading those on our program and giving you some acclaim, whether it be good or bad. Hopefully it would be good. I don't know who would write us a bad review, but you never know. But yes, please take advantage. iTunes, Google Play, Twitter, or email over at secretfriendsunite@gmail.com, and your voice will be heard.
I also wanted to say that we have a YouTube channel, and we are going to be posting more and more content every week on the YouTube channel. We will have some video drops as well, and eventually we will have a YouTube video version of the podcast every week. So it'll be awesome as well. So check us out, Secret Friends Unite, and check it out on YouTube.
And to bid you a fair adieu, as always, I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
We're all stories in the end. Make yours a good one.
In a truck.
I got Dungeon Master's Guide. I got 12-sided die. I got Kitty Pride. And I got you waiting there for me. Yes, I do. I do. I got posters on the wall. My favorite rock group, Kiss. I've got Ace Freely. I've got Peter Chris waiting there for me. Yes, I do. I do. In the garage, I feel safe. No one cares about my ways. In the garage where I belong, no one hears me sing this song. In the garage. I got electric guitar. I play my stupid songs. I write these stupid words.